This is, without a doubt, one of the proudest days of my life. After a year and a half straight of grinding on this channel for 60, sometimes 70 hours a week, all the sleepless nights, all the battles with Adobe Premiere when it decides to stop working for literally no reason, we have finally reached 100,000 subscribers. And I just want to thank all of you watching this right now for allowing me to pursue this dream. It was not an easy decision to leave my job when I decided to work on this channel full time. It was a stable career in sports TV that probably would have resulted in promotions and producer jobs sometime in the next 20 years, but my wife knew that I had a lot of aspirations and a lot of creative projects that I wanted to do that would never get done if I was working for someone else. And she believed in my ability to eventually make a living off of those projects. So she told me to do what I thought was the unthinkable at the time: quit. She knew that I would be making literally no money for a while, or as it turned out in some months, losing money, but she didn't care. She knew that this channel could be something special, and she wanted to see that happen. And without her encouragement and damn near demanding that I quit my job, none of us would be here right now. My last day working in television was the day before Super Bowl 51, February 4th, 2017. Today, it has been exactly 500 days since I became self-employed. We've had 90,000 new people subscribe since then to help us build this channel. We've put out episodes analyzing almost every team in the league. And yes, Colorado, I do hear you, and I am aware that the Broncos exist. We've covered 2 draft cycles, 2 free agency classes, and some of the biggest storylines to rock the NFL in the past year. And while I haven't always been right about everything, I do hope that I've at least taught you all something new in every single show. That was, after all, my real goal with this channel from the start. If you all walk away from every episode with a new nugget of knowledge that can help you enjoy the game even more, then I consider this channel to be a success. And in the spirit of that, I'm going to celebrate reaching 100,000 subscribers today by answering probably the most common question that I get asked on a daily basis. How do I watch film, and how can you watch it at home the exact same way? I've gotten it from coaches, from players, and from fans. People want to know what my process is when I'm charting plays and interpreting my notes to form whatever the narrative is for that particular episode. So to finally answer that and to give you all an idea of what I do every week, I'm going to show you one play that I never got to use in any of my episodes this year, and I'm going to go through it in even more detail than I've ever done before. It's going to be step by step, slow and steady to illustrate how I interpreted this play in real time and how I came to my conclusions on it. So with that, let's get right into this Micah Hyde interception from the third quarter of Week 4's game against the Falcons. I was originally going to have this play be the focal point of a piece on the Bills' secondary earlier this offseason, but I just couldn't get the episode to flow right at all, and it wasn't very entertaining, so I'll probably just end up doing something different on the Bills next season. But I still want to show off this play because I think it's really worthy of recognition, and it's a good example of how my opinion on a play can shift as I watch it more and more. Now, when I'm watching a play like this on NFL Game Pass for the first time, even if I already know what the end result is, I always pause it before the snap and take in as much information as possible. I always find that if I look at the defensive formation, the offensive formation, and the personnel groups, I can kind of form a picture in my head of what kind of coverages I might see out of this and what kind of plays would be successful against them. The quarterback is doing the exact same thing at the line of scrimmage after all, so if you can put yourself in his shoes and go into a play totally blind and just kind of diagnose the defense from his perspective before you see it, then you can kind of better understand his motivations for whatever decisions he's making. If you see what he sees, then his actions will make a lot more sense. For instance, when I initially paused this play here, back when I first charted it, I could see the Bills' corners backing off a bit to get an outside leverage. That's a telltale sign for cover 3 because in a cover 3, those corners always want to be outside of their receivers so that as they're bailing in coverage, they can keep their eyes on both the quarterback and the receiver simultaneously with their peripheral vision. So we know that it's probably a cover 3 just based on that, and Matt Ryan knows that it's probably a cover 3 because as he was glancing at these corners he could check their alignment as well. So right now, before I even see the snap, my mind is immediately going to where the weaknesses are in a cover 3 and how Ryan can exploit them. That means the seams in between the corners and the free safety, which is Micah Hyde, the curl zones underneath those outside corners, or a check down to Devonta Freeman underneath in the middle of the field. That's just where my head is at before I get any more information after the snap. I know it's cover 3 and I'm expecting an MVP caliber quarterback like Ryan to attack the soft spots of that coverage. At this point in the process, I'll roll the play for the first time through, and what we actually get is a 2-man route combination off a play action which looks a lot like a Dino concept, which is good against cover 3, but somehow Micah Hyde ends up in the deep middle to undercut this pass and get the interception, which basically never happens against a Dino call. And whenever something like this takes place, meaning something I don't expect because it's very atypical, that's when I get excited because I know I might have something I can present to you guys. So here's where I start to roll this play back and watch it over and over and over again to get as deep an understanding as possible of what the hell just happened. Now, typically a Dino call is meant to draw the free safety's eyes with the deep over route and get them to come down and take it, which leaves this outside corner out to dry on the skinny post because they're already in outside leverage from the start against this Z receiver. And this is Taylor Gabriel running this route, mind you, who runs a high 4-3. So starting at any sort of leverage disadvantage against him is basically a death nail as it is. However, this concept is a bit different than a typical Dino because this X receiver is only initially showing the over route, but then pivots in the middle of the field and breaks back out to the boundary. And I want to understand why that is, as in why this concept is constructed this way because it's different from the Dinos I'm used to seeing. And while watching this play over and over and over again to try to process the whole thing, it occurs to me that this route is actually a built-in progression for Ryan to go to if the Bills run a zone replacement coverage. If you watched my Marshawn Lattimore episode last season, you'll know what I'm talking about. In cover 3 against any sort of over route, whoever the corner is that is lined up on the side that the over route originates from, they will automatically know that their free safety is going to pick up that over route because the safety is usually in a better position to do so. As a result, those corners will let the receivers go and replace the deep middle zone that the safety leaves vacant. That's what EJ Gaines is doing here. He lets the receiver go and then starts drifting back. And after watching this about 20 times in a row, what I really find out is that this whole concept is meant to open up the post first by drawing the safety down like any normal Dino concept would, but if Gaines gets to his spot on time and fills that deep zone to bracket the post, the deep return route from the X should still be open because of Gaines drifting back. And Hyde is theoretically running the other direction to try to choke off an over route that isn't even being run, so no matter what, this play should be open for a big gain. Its entire design is meant to shred cover 3, which is the coverage that is being presented here. And at this point, after I recognize that, I'm saying again, what the hell happened? How could this possibly not work? Because on paper, it's perfect. Every time I roll this play back, I'm trying to see if Hyde showed any hint of biting on the fake over route, and never once do I see him take a single step forward. In fact, he's slightly cheating towards Gabriel the entire time. Now, this makes me unsure if this was built into this coverage or not, and if I was reading everything totally wrong, so again, I'm watching it another 5 or 6 times, but now I'm mostly focusing on the players around Hyde. I want to see what they are doing so that I can try to piece together whatever role Hyde is supposed to have on this play. And right then is when I notice EJ Gaines' body language. You can see him pass off this route and start to drift back like he's supposed to, but since he can still see this X receiver in his peripheral vision, Gaines also notices that receiver plant and pivot back outside. That pivot slows Gaines down a little bit because now this is a new wrinkle he's never seen before, but he realizes that Hyde is still supposed to be taking that over route, whether it pivots back or not, so Gaines goes right back to hightailing it deep because he doesn't want to leave Tre'Davious White hanging on that post route. However, when Gaines looks over to try to find Gabriel's route, he sees Hyde right there with him. Now he's starting to really get confused and he looks back at that X receiver to try to see what's going on. From here until the interception, he spends the rest of the play pretty much in no man's land because he doesn't expect Hyde to be in the deep middle, and he has no idea if he just blew the coverage or if Hyde is just freelancing. Even Trey White does the same thing. He stops running as soon as he sees Hyde appear over the top of Gabriel, probably just as surprised as Gaines is. Both of their reactions and the body languages they're showing in the middle of this play are what tells me that Hyde probably kinda went off book here, but in a good way. And again, looking at Hyde from start to finish here, you can see him drift a bit towards Gabriel, and then he turns and runs with the post while Ryan is still staring down that over route. Hyde has zero indication of where the ball is being thrown at this point in the play, and Ryan is only staring down that over because he wants to draw Hyde down into it in the first place. Hyde somehow telepathically knows that Ryan is going for Gabriel the whole way here, and he never even pays attention to Ryan's eyes at all because he knows it would just be manipulation anyway. He recognizes that the Falcons are trying to use his cover 3 responsibilities against him, so he just abandons those responsibilities entirely and goes with his gut instead. And what's crazy is that both now and when I first saw this interception, I had no idea how Hyde knew to run with this post route. Like, literally none at all. I had no explanation for it and still don't, and after originally charting this play, I even went on a mission to see if the Falcons had run this at all during the rest of the year, maybe just speculating that Hyde had saw it somewhere on tape. And Atlanta, believe it or not, had never run this play once during the season leading up to this. That made it even more impressive to me because that means that Hyde read this play from the start without ever even seeing it before. EJ Gaines was lost, Tre'Davious White was equally surprised, and most important of all, Matt Ryan never saw it coming either. And how could he? I spent 4 hours of my time on this one play and all the Falcons' offensive snaps leading up to this play just to reach one ultimate conclusion. Micah Hyde is really instinctive. Like, when people talk about making a play just on instinct, this is what they mean. They're talking about plays that have zero rational explanation for them other than someone secretly being a real, bona fide psychic. And while yes, sometimes it is frustrating to not be able to entirely explain how a big play happens, to me those inexplicable interceptions are often the most fun to watch and the most fun to break down on this channel. There's something exciting about being able to see one of the best in the business go to work on a Sunday afternoon and think to myself the whole time, how the actual f did he just do that? That's what makes this sport so great and so exciting. When I say that the majority of my hours during the work week are spent watching tapes so that I can chart everything and figure out what it is I'm actually trying to say, well, this is why that process takes so long. Sometimes I will take up my entire Tuesday afternoon looking at every Matt Ryan pass just to try to get one morsel of context for a random interception, but in a way that's my favorite part of the job. I love those tape tangents because you never know what you're going to see or what you're going to learn, and more often than not, once I start going down a rabbit hole, the tape will take me to a new subject or a new concept to break down that was better than everything I originally planned to show anyway. So before I wrap this up, I really do hope that even though we only looked at one play today, that it gave you some new perspective about the channel, about my borderline OCD while watching film, and maybe even about Micah Hyde too. I know that my process is probably unorthodox, or at the very least super inefficient, but hell, if taking 20 minutes to analyze the body language of a very confused pair of cornerbacks is wrong, then I don't want to be right. And hell, we just hit 100K anyway, so I guess it's all worth it in the end. So thank you all again to everyone who has supported this channel for the last year and a half. It has been a very long, very slow process, but I didn't have a single regret, and the community we're building here is the best possible motivation for me to keep going. You guys are all incredible, just truly amazing people, and I can't wait to see what cool stuff we learn together before we get the next 100,000 people on board. Thank you all again. I'll be back next week with another episode, and I think you're all going to enjoy that a lot. And until then, later.